Srimatre Namaha.
Everybody. Today I have the honor of welcoming back someone whose presence is as powerful as her wisdom. VinitaJi, a devoted Sri Vidya sadhaka, author, healer, and teacher of the Devi path. Her words don't just teach, they transmit. This time we're going even deeper. We're going into the weeds. We're going into wounds, worthiness, and the untamed Shakti within. So we're going to get ready for some truth, fire, and remembrance. Okay, so are we ready, VinitaJi?
Yes, whenever you're ready, Shama.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to start with a question about trauma. And it also deals with quantum fields too, because that's also very, very relevant. So how do we alchemize without bypassing? So if Shakti is, let's say, pure potential, and the quantum fields are potentiality too, then like our trauma, for example, is that uncollapsed potential energy waiting to be transmuted into power?
See, the observer effect suggests that the act of observation alters the outcome of the quantum event. This challenges the idea of a separate passive observer and implies an inherent entanglement between consciousness and reality. In other words, awareness is not neutral, it participates. Now, Tantra, which is what you and I practice, goes even deeper. It dissolves the dichotomy between the observer and the observed. So there is no subject-object split. So there is only awareness being aware of itself. So this is where we come into whether what we are talking of is manifested or at an unmanifested state. Now, karma is bound to identity, the sense of I am the doer. It's when we allow this ego to dissolve that karma collapses. How does karma collapse? Because if there is no karma which is unfolding, then there is no clinging. So it's like a fan that continues to spin for some time after it's switched off. So your past karmas still play out, but there is no identification with the experience. So the pain may arise, but there's no me to suffer it. So it's like saying, let the arrow fly, but there's no target for it to hit. So now, without the ego to claim authorship, new karma is not generated. Action continues, but it is spontaneous, effortless, like a wind blowing. And this is nishkama karma. So when you no longer identify with this life just merely through your ego, through the lens of your ego, karma loses its grip. Life becomes a play of Shakti without the bondage. And you move in the world as a liberated being, untouched by the ripples of cause and effect. This is something that we have to internalize. I don't know if it answers your question, but somewhere we needed to bring in how quantum mechanics applies to karma and the ego. If you want me to further elucidate a particular line.
Yeah, can you expand a little bit more on the awareness aspect? So in terms of karma and awareness, once the karma plays out, it no longer has an effect, but the awareness remains, right? So how can we implement that into our daily lives? Let's say with traumas, for example.
So let's look at it like this. There's something called a quantum vacuum in quantum mechanics, right? Which is very similar to the tantric term we use called shunyata. So what I'm positing here is, can manifestation begin from emptiness, not desire, so that then you're not held in the grip of what you currently feel is the net around you. It's important to step out of that net. Now, why I'm bringing this up is for a very simple reason, that we normally always manifest from ego. Now, if we manifest from this void, right, in the shunyata, then what happens is that this emptiness, which is more powerful than desire, will help us understand the reality of what this life is all about. So,
And
for
that's the
example,
dark matter.
sorry, say that again, Shama, I didn't hear.
That's the dark matter, right? The
The
shunyata.
dark matter. So, the Tripura Rahasya says, the supreme is neither being nor non-being, but that which holds both in its womb. In quantum physics, vacuum is also not empty. It is filled with fluctuating energy, creating particles from the void. The physicist Paul Dirac calls it the sea of unmanifested possibilities. Now, when we seek from a place of the ego, the desire stems from lack or separation. But when we seek from shunyata, we are seeking from a place of wholeness, which is undivided. We are free from conditioning and fear, and we are open to pure potential, which is not limited to the ego's wants. So, manifestation from that point is about not getting, but allowing what truly aligns with the universal rhythm to emerge effortlessly.
I see. So it's more than letting go and trusting the universe. It's really immersing yourself into that dark matter.
It is just allowing yourself to become the magnet to receive the energy, which is not just about mental focus. This is about ensuring that the thing is, the mind alone lacks prana. So all the people who are actually manifesting from the mind have to understand that because your thoughts don't really have the energy, you have to do some more work in order for the manifestation to happen.
I see.
So
Okay.
in Tantra, the answer in short is that we do not look to transcend desire. We are only sanctifying it. Desire is not a problem. Desire is Shakti, the primal urge of consciousness to know, to feel, to express. So, when desire is purified through awareness, it becomes a vehicle of liberation, not bondage.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. It's not desire that's the problem. A lot of times spirituality teaches that we should have no desire, that, we're
Yes,
fine as we are, we have everything within. And even if that's true, what you're saying is that it's okay to have the desire. But
absolutely. In the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, Shiva tells Devi, even desire can lead to liberation if it is entered into fully with awareness.
awareness is key.
It's the be all and end all. You don't
Yes.
need to renounce desire. You need to wake up within it. See it as Shakti moving through you, asking you to co-create, not to cling.
That's so beautiful. There's nothing that states that it's more spiritual to be impoverished and we should not be seeking out money and abundance. It's actually spiritual to seek out abundance, and it's okay to want the things that we want as long as we're
Again,
doing so in awareness.
the Tantra texts are very clear that someone who is making money through a dharmic way is hugely beneficial to society at large. So such desires need to be encouraged, not to be looked down upon, not to say, please go and seek renunciation. That path may be for some, but for most of us, especially in Kali Yuga, in the times that we live in, it's absolutely appropriate to seek whatever material desires come to us.
That's really, really good to know. That's good to know. And I love that you're bringing it back to Shakti. And it really reminds me that we need to be as authentic with ourselves as possible. And that's the Shakti within, right? Because how can we really have that awareness if we don't have awareness of our own feelings, of our own inner world, of our own divinity? And if we're just reacting instead of responding and we're not in alignment with ourselves, we're just kind of living a half of a life, I feel.
Which most people are doing because they are not looking at themselves through the eyes of the cosmos. So you are the eye through which the cosmos sees itself. The universe is not out there looking in, it is you. It is dreaming itself as you. This is said again and again in our Tantra texts. Your thoughts, your longings, your laughter, your heartbreak are all waves of Shiva's awareness and Shakti's expression. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. When you awaken even slightly, you don't become something else. You begin to remember what you never truly forgot. That you are that. Tattvamasi. You are the infinite playing as the finite.
Yes. And I've noticed a lot of people use that to spiritually bypass, to say, okay, I am that, I am God. Now I must renounce this. I don't have any desires, or even use it as a method to shame others that may have unhealthy coping mechanisms. That shouldn't you know you are God? Why do you do this? And even that in itself is not very godly.
So, see, in Tantra, nothing is seen as a sin or a failure. Everything, the pain that we feel, the losses that we encounter, the cravings, everything is Shakti in disguise, leading us through illusion towards awakening. So, this is something we have to keep in mind before we jump to judgment about other people, about ourselves, particularly about the guilt that we carry, the trauma that we pull ourselves through, we drag ourselves through, all through adulthood.
Yes. Yes. And it just really makes me think, in this quantum theory, since it's not really linear, we can even send love backwards to our 5-year-old self, right? And we can change the trajectory of our timeline in the now.
Yes. That is one of the ways in which we can heal most of the childhood trauma by speaking and addressing our younger selves, by journaling, by just writing out what could have been better for us, which we didn't receive, and understanding that now as an adult, we have the power, we have the autonomy, we have the authority and the agency that we didn't have as children, as youngsters growing up. Tama, to address the question that you had about how we deal with childhood trauma, it isn't about as an adult when we have the agency to look back and say, look, I didn't have control at that time, but now I can rebuild. At this point, we have to understand that this is not about reinventing. It's just about revealing. You don't have to become someone new. You have to shed who you truly never were. Now, what I mean by that is that in Tantra, we are told that we have to stand bare, not ashamed of anything that we've gone through. Let that story be the sacred text. Let it not be secret shame. Because that's how we are all leading our lives in secret shame.
Yes.
Why don't we look at it as something that had to happen and address it and change our narrative and make it a sacred text and return to the body, not as a burden, but as a temple, and then address all of these issues that we are dealing with. Perhaps you could even use some gentle invocations. You could say, I do not rebuild from ruins. I rise from the truth. I am not my losses. I am what remains when all else falls away. This becoming is holy. I bow to. Because when we do this exercise, what happens is that there is such immense acceptance of what we have gone through. There is no pushing things under the carpet. Because it's always that what you want to hide invariably comes back to haunt. So this is one way of saying, because now I have the autonomy and the agency, I will deal with it, not by rebuilding, not by reinventing, but by accepting that I was never incomplete.
Yeah, it's giving us that power to ourselves instead of allowing any past judgments or other people's unhealed traumas and what they said to us in those moments. Instead of allowing that to define us, we give ourselves our true meaning.
That's a beautiful and poignant reflection you just made. It touches on the quiet truth that so many of us carry unseen stories, which is grief without words, our battles which we fought in silence, and the resilience that we stitched together. Now, the thing is, we have to soften our judgment of all the players in this. We need to cultivate what I think can only be termed as radical tenderness, because that's the only way forward. Because if you butt horns at this time, it's only going to be an eye for an eye. It begins with a shift in intention. So we have to go from assumption to inquiry, from reacting to witnessing. We can just pause and ask, when we feel the urge to judge, what might this person be carrying that I can't see? It might not answer the question, it might not absolve them of the harmful behavior, but it does add a dimension to our response. And we reflect on our own unseen depths. When we remember the time when we felt misunderstood, it expands our capacity for compassion and use gentler language even in our thought. Because the way we speak to others and about others, even in the privacy of our minds, shapes how we experience that.
And that starts with that tenderness with ourselves first.
And recognize that some pain is pre-verbal or unspoken. Not everyone has found the language that you and I have, the vocabulary that we have, the semantics, the control, or the safety to share what haunts us. It doesn't mean that their pain is any less real.
That's true. It's a
Sometimes
privilege
the
to have
most
the words.
loving thing we can do is offer presence without pressure.
Presence without
Quiet
pressure.
companionship that says you don't have to explain it all for me to care.
It's such a beautiful way to give space to somebody. I think that's the real true definition of unconditional love, is giving that space without expecting anything in return. There's no agenda. You're not trying to fix the other. You're allowing them to be as they are and letting them show up as they are.
Isn't that what we want for ourselves, Shama?
Yes, we do.
So if that is what we want for ourselves, then let us put it out there so that we then become the flag bearers and show the world how to. As women,
Yes.
let us stand up for each other. Let us hold each other up. Let us lean into each other rather than to drag each other down. Because I say this again and again that in patriarchy, it's a woman who is woman's greatest enemy, not the man.
I agree. I
And
agree.
this plays out again and again and again through generations.
Yes. And we can end that too. It's up to us to say enough. I want to be a source of empowerment. And I think that only comes with authenticity. And when we really, really sit with ourselves and really acknowledge all of the uncomfortable feelings, I think that a lot of times, especially in the South Asian culture, and of course many others too, we're just trained to think in a way that just keeps us quiet, submissive. And then when those feelings are suppressed, instead of looking to the patriarchy who is perpetrating it, we bring down and tear down other women, you know? So it's very insidious.
They're all guilty because the world romanticizes a woman's self-abandonment and labels it as love, loyalty, or virtue. We see that everywhere, right? The woman has to
Yes.
be, she's as beautiful as the sacrifice she makes. But the moment you or I say we want to reclaim our autonomy, we are now branded selfish and rebellious. We are actually a threat to society itself. For
Yes.
years, my sacrifice was convenient. It made others comfortable because it met their needs, upheld the dynamics that they benefited from. So my silence was easier to applaud than my voice. But the moment I began to choose myself, it disrupted the role that others had cast me in. And suddenly they choose to forget that
Yes.
I am also human with the dreams which I had shelved so that someone else could pursue theirs.
That's so true. That's so true. And it becomes convenient to just expect that role to continue because, like you said, it benefits everybody else. And when you finally reclaim your voice and you roar and you say, enough, I too have my desires. I too deserve to live out my authenticity. That becomes a problem because it's no longer convenient for the agenda that's already written out for you. And that's unfortunately the way the world works. And it seems like when we become more authentic with ourselves and with others, it'll give others the courage to stop romanticizing submissiveness and to question, is this really benefiting me? And I'm not saying benefiting in the way of, yeah, sure, of course, things should make sense in whichever way they should in one's life, but it should also benefit one in the sense of growth. And that's a question that I don't think that we're taught. It's just it's always the woman slaving in the kitchen. It's the mother that's just unconditionally doing whatever the whole family wants. It's being able to tolerate disrespect. It's maybe even tolerating abuse, emotional, verbal, mental, whatever, physical. And that becomes like, oh, she's so strong because she doesn't have a problem. And the person who does have a problem is the weak one because they're just seen as difficult and going against the grain. And
And I'm done with being
yeah,
strong.
I'm done with
Truly,
that too.
as a woman, I am done with being strong. And for many,
Honestly,
that's
so
uncomfortable.
that. Yes.
Not because I'm wrong, but because my wholeness challenges the illusions that people build around my compliance. No longer that. If
No.
choosing myself is betrayal, then so be it. I am remembering that I was never meant to disappear in the first place. But because of society, we disappeared. We abandoned ourselves. But for how long?
Yes. No more. No more. I'm done with that too. You know, for the longest time, I allowed my own traumas to stop me, to make me feel ashamed. And maybe it was something somebody said, maybe it was my own projection, but I'm twice divorced. I'm a single mom. I did not have the easiest childhood. On paper, it may look perfect. Loving parents, they've done everything that they could, but there is always an inner child wound. And I don't think that a lot of people in certain generations are capable of understanding that that level of responsibility yet. And that's where I'm choosing to take my power, because I have had many unhealthy coping mechanisms throughout my life, from food to alcohol to shopping, escapism, and of course, relationship, wanting validation from men, wanting validation from everybody besides myself. And it could look like I'm even doing something spiritual. It could be spiritually shopping. It could be, you know, in the sense of, oh, now I'm going to this retreat. Now I'm doing that. And looking to everywhere else but within for that power. And I am done shrinking myself. I'm done feeling ashamed for what's perceived to be mistakes in my past. I've been shamed for it and no more. If people have a problem with that, that's their damn problem. It's not my problem. And that just means that they have not faced their demons. They have not danced with their demons. They have not faced their own issues from within. And I'm choosing to take that responsibility and say, okay, I'm going to transmute this into a power. Yes, I was a co-creator in every single situation. Maybe not so much as a child, because I think that children are innocent in all capacities,
They're
but you know,
victims
of
of
course,
circumstance,
they're
as it were.
victims. Exactly. Exactly. But when it comes to choosing somebody to marry, for example, whether it's a narcissist, whether it's an addict, or who, just whatever the circumstance is, at some level, we are all co-creators of that. And it's not to say that um, it's all my fault or it's all this person's fault, but how can we, instead of perpetuating this victim narrative of this
Mm.
happened to me and that happened to me and it's this person's fault, and it's how can we turn that pain into power? And that's what I'm interested in now. I'm interested in unapologetically being myself. And in our culture, sometimes it's seen as, oh, like you married outside your culture the first time, you didn't listen to your parents, and you married somebody else like a second time, you had a kid even though there were problems, this and that. I had many reactions, whether that be with my exes, with my parents. There's a lot of anger. But I also am choosing to look at it like I have sacred emotion. There is wisdom in that anger. There is grief that is there. And yes, there is a way to honor that. And that's really what I want to do. I want to honor every aspect of Shakti. And Shakti is not just love and light. Shakti is also darkness. Shakti is also fierce. And it's about time that we roar instead of quietly, meekly being submissive to the role that patriarchy wants us to be in.
Shama, what you have just articulated is pure soul fire. It's the voice of someone who's done diluting herself, someone who's breaking the cycle of inherited silence. I bow to you, because for how long are we going to keep defending dysfunction in the name of the norm? Just because it's dressed in tradition, or staying in a situation just because one chose it, which is what you were talking about. Just because we chose wrong doesn't mean that we have to be in it forever. We are allowed to change our minds and evolve. We are not here to play small so others can stay comfortable. If my healing offends your conditioning, that's your awakening, not my burden. When are we going to heal past this limited cultural condition?
Yes, it's about time that we are shameless with our authenticity and we say to hell with the culture, to hell with tradition, to hell with all of that stuff. Because who is it benefiting? It's benefiting the system who created it, that compliance. And it affects men, it affects women, and men suppress, repress, and that ends up turning into, unfortunately, abuse, maybe rape, maybe other unhealthy avenues that it can manifest. For women, it's other things, and for men, it can also manifest as heart disease. And it's it's yeah, it's very prevalent, I think, because as much as there is such wisdom out there, we're not taught how to honor ourselves. And that comes with our darkness and our light. It's not just our light. It takes deep shadow work, right? To really get to that level of, I see the light within myself. But how can we bypass that? We can't.
You're absolutely right, because once too often we mistake longevity for legitimacy. We stay in dynamics, in roles, in marriages, in belief systems, and entire ways of being just because we've been handed these down and normalized. But tradition without evolution is eventually a prison.
Yes.
This is the bottom line. And if we have to heal, true radical healing means that we have to question the script, unlearn the myths that we were raised with. There is no other way.
Yes. And that even means this romanticizing the role of parents in our culture. There's this level of, I gave you life, now you owe me. And maybe they don't outwardly say that, but there's so many ways that it manifests. And whether it's women having to live with their in-laws after marriage, maybe it doesn't happen so much anymore, but in some cases
It
it
still
does.
does.
Yeah.
Where we are from in India, it's still more of the norm.
Yes.
And when I said we have to unlearn the myths, I mean that we have to stop thinking that suffering is noble. And as women, we have this immense capacity to believe in all the myths that we've been brought up on. How do we even believe that only obedience is love? How do you believe that your worth lies in how much you endure? When will we ask who wrote these rules and who are benefiting from it? Who benefits if we follow these rules? These are questions that you, me, and every thinking woman, and for that matter, man, has to ask themselves. Because
Yes.
if we
Every
don't ask these
conscious person.
questions, we will never get out of this generational trauma.
No, that's true. It's so, so deep. And we have to really take stock of everything, like you said, and ask who's benefiting from it. And it may not just be one person. Yes, it's the collective family, it's the system that maybe perpetuates it. And it's convenient, it's convenient because it is allowing us to remain small. People are getting their meals on time, or they're getting, you know, uh, a free maid sometimes in some situations. There's so many different things that arise out of this compliance. And it's enough is enough. And I think that a lot of the times when we fight back or we question it, we're seen as rebellious, problematic, going against our values. And it's like, what values? Like the values that are only
Aiming with the
benefiting
shoe,
three people?
everyone wants to rope her in.
Yes.
I think it's imperative that for the sake of the generations that follow us, We should be allowed to outgrow people, places, choices, even identities we once clung to. We have
Mm.
to internalize the fact that evolution is not betrayal, it's alignment. Both men and women need to redefine what it means to be strong, devoted, successful, or whole. And that definition of what makes them strong or devoted or successful or whole has to be what they write for themselves, not what society imposes upon them.
Yes, in every category. And that requires thinking, for ourselves, whether that's okay. In life, we're taught to get married, have a child by such and such age, have such and such job. And says who? Like, who the hell wrote these rules anyway?
That's the whole point. Conditioning teaches us performance. Be that good girl. Be that strong man who doesn't cry. The moment we start to reclaim our authenticity, we start to reclaim our voices, then the whole of society gets so shaken up.
Yes. And that's what true Shakti awakening is. Like they think that Shakti is just a house cat. No, it's supposed to be a lion in your face roaring. And if you get too close, she will bite you. Maybe she might even eat you.
Yeah. And this is the reason why we need to create these sacred spaces where discomfort is welcome, where we can have these hard conversations, where we can talk about gender dynamics, emotional labor, invisible burdens, and inherited trauma without shame or deflection, and see healing for what it is, which is that it is revolutionary. When a
Yes.
woman chooses herself, when a man sheds his stoicism, when anyone sets boundaries, that's not rebellion, that's renaissance in a way. Each act of healing rewrites the cultural code.
That's so true. That's so true. And it takes one example to inspire others to do the same within themselves. And in that, hopefully, it can become a domino effect of people reclaiming their power, men and women.
We're not here to play small anymore. We don't have to. We're here to
Yeah.
expand so fiercely that
Yes.
even the old world has to stretch to meet us. And the ones who love us will grow with us. And the ones
Yes.
who don't will fall by the wayside.
That's very
And this
true.
is what
And
Shakti for me means.
yes.
And
And
have you ever thought, Shama, that women are called too much for expressing emotion,
yes, all the
while
time.
men are praised for shutting down?
Yes.
Women are told to stay quiet to keep the peace. Men get to leave the mess and still be called strong
Yes.
because imbalance has become tradition.
And who's benefiting from it, right? Because
That's the question you have to ask. And how
we
did we
become
get
easier to
here?
control. Yeah. That's so true. That's a good point. And we as human beings become easier to control when we're shut off from our feelings, when we're shut off from our divinity. When men are told, don't cry, don't do this, and they're just probably drowning in confusion, not able to express themselves. Like maybe it's coming out in unhealthy ways. Women are just suppressing everything, maybe crying in the bathroom. It's this level of, it's like you are completely living a false life. And
See, a
we become
woman,
easier
when
to
she comes
control.
into her power, is labeled too much, too loud, too emotional. And a man, when he's disconnected from his emotion, is called stoic, strong, admirable. What is this? Patriarchal culture just rewriting something into the hierarchy, and society divorcing Shakti from reverence and reducing her to hysteria drama, simultaneously praising men for emotional repression as power. But repression isn't strength, it's survival. And suppression
Yes.
of expression isn't peace, it's pressure waiting to explode. Look at the number of South Asian men who die of heart disease in their 40s and 50s. This will give you the answer.
Yes, it's so prevalent and it's become so common.
In every household, you will find a young man dying of a heart disease because he is so disconnected from his emotions. He's made to be that way. Don't cry, don't express your emotions. And for us women, at least we have our women friends, we have our girlfriends, we cry, we somehow let it out. But
That's
men
true.
don't even have that as a recourse. So where does that leave them?
It leaves them making unhealthy choices, and unfortunately, it costs them a lot, including their lives.
It costs them their lives. Because when imbalance becomes tradition, then power is prioritized over harmony and control is mistaken for order. So then this is the mess that we've made of our own society.
Yes.
And it is for this reason that you and I are saying, let us remember Shakti. Let us reclaim Shakti. Not just as a deity on a pedestal, but as a force that lives in our voice, so that we may draw our boundaries. Let us explore both our fury and our softness.
Yes. It seems like our deepest rage isn't just from this life, even. It's just a lineage of silenced women, So we have to grieve for the pain, even if we never personally experienced it, but we carry it in our bones. All of us do.
Yeah. It's not just for women, I would say it's for the men as well.
Yes.
Because I think the men have to stop apologizing for the moments when they are emotional, just as we have to stop apologizing for the times when our fire shows up. Men and women have to honor emotion as wisdom, not weakness. We have to teach our boys to cry and our girls to roar. And we have to stop keeping peace at the cost of our truth, because that is what is drowning us in our own sorrows. And in all my sessions, Shama, I've done maybe 700 sessions in the past couple of months, and there are only two kinds of people, really. There's a set of people, adults, young adults, even older, middle-aged people who are dealing with trauma that came from handling their parents, from stuff that they're not able to get out of their system. And the second set of people are children who are trying to deal. Let's just cut that because I think I got a little confused. You can edit it out later, but essentially to say the two kinds of people, one is the child dealing with the parents, and the other is the parent trying to deal with the child. Which makes me really wonder about tradition, because now we are living in a time of evolution. So if you have tradition without evolution, then it's just a cage in costume.
Yes. So with your clients that have those issues, whether they're children or parents, does it come from this traditional mindset of obligation and reverence and all of that, like pedestalizing them almost?
For the child, it's the enormous amount of guilt that they feel that their parents have handed down to them for not being the perfect child. And on the other hand, the parents feel let down by the children. So since I see both sides of the story, I can relate to both aspects, and it all boils down to what society has made each party do. So, on the one hand, the parents, they have tried their best to give the child what they feel was right. The child, even as an adult, is not able to understand why he was not given what he wanted, but why he was given what they wanted. And the parents can't understand why the child is not grateful for what he's been given. So, how do you address this dichotomy? How do you tell a parent who is grieving a child who's still very much alive, who's still leading a very, very good life, but the parent is in grief because the child didn't turn out to be what the parent expected? These are the tough questions we have to ask ourselves, which after all of this, my counseling sessions have really led me to believe. I never used to think that anti-natalism as a philosophy had any credibility. But now I see probably that's the only way forward. Because
So not having children.
Not having children, yes.
Yes.
I know this is a very radical thought, but I have started to believe in it so strongly, seeing that no child is happy, no parent is happy. So
That's
then
so
what
true.
are we doing by bringing more children into this world, thinking that they're going to be the reason for your happiness? The child never asked to be here in the first place.
It's a lot of burden for a child to be born with an agenda to make the parent happy.
And this is something which is very peculiar to us as South Asians, where even before you're born, there is an anticipation that he or she is here to take care of my needs.
Yes. And it's very selfish, actually. And maybe they don't see it as selfish because that's the programming that's been done. And but it makes sense to question, why do we want children? Do we want to bring children into this world when we have not healed our own wounds? Because if our inner child has not been healed, we're bringing more kids into the world that are going to be wounded. So it's going to be a whole world of wounded adults and children. So it's like overpopulating with such trauma.
It's a valid and increasingly relevant stance, what you just said, especially for those of us who've seen so much unprocessed trauma and how it gets passed forward when people birth children before healing themselves or stay in partnerships just to follow a script.
Yes.
And I have come to believe today that antinatalism isn't a rejection of life. It's actually coming from a deep love for life, paired with the refusal to perpetuate cycles unconsciously.
That's so
I know
true.
this is a very radical statement, and I stand by every individual who is out there asking, should I have children? My answer is a firm no.
Yeah.
Because
Because
don't
they
fall for the
themselves are
trap.
children. Yeah.
Sorry, Shama, say that again.
Oh, I said that because most of us ourselves are still children. We're just masquerading as adults.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing is we are not here to explain our choices to those who haven't even lived our karma. We are here only to embody the wisdom that the pain has given us. And if you've had children, okay, who came in without any error, without any decision making on their part, then you have to carry out your responsibilities to the best of your ability. Now there's no
Yes.
looking back.
And doing so in a conscious way, not in the way that was done to most of us, in a transactional manner. Even South Asian parents, most of them will give the world, but then they may want you to be a certain profession. They may want you to marry a specific type of person, or they may want your lifestyle to be successful. And yes, like all of those things are good from the surface, but I think it also benefits the parents because they themselves don't feel like failures, So it's we have no control over anybody, including our own children. And it's releasing that I did this for you, now I expect this, and you messed up 10 times, and now you should listen to me because we can't trust your judgment. That's really incorrect thinking. And I think that's interfering not just in one's karma, but it's decaying their souls, I think.
And Shama, I really believe that for a lot of, not just South Asian women, for a lot of women, we carry the mother wound. And one of the reasons why I was drawn to Sri Vidya is because I see the importance of healing. So it's all right if you don't have your physical mother standing by you, or if there is no mother figure in your life, you look upon Shakti as your mother figure. The universal mother is there. She is your pillar, and she will help you heal those mother wounds like no physical mother can. So I call upon all women, if you are still struggling with your mother wounds, look beyond. Look at the greater, bigger mother, and she will help you. She will move you forward.
It's so beautiful and profound. That's the real mother. That's the mother without conditions. And that's the actual void that we should be looking to.
Because within her lies, like we said earlier, infinite possibilities, the realm of everything that you wish to manifest.
Yes.
Which your physical mother cannot give you. She might be able to give you some of it. But when you rely upon someone who is far more universal, then what more do you need? You come under the umbrella of greatness, of
That's
divinity itself.
Yes. And when we really give our power to the actual mother, Shakti, that's when profound shifts can actually happen. Because human beings are essentially limited due to their conditioning, and it really depends on how much they've awakened and such, but we should not be outsourcing our power to others. And if it should be outsourced, it should be to the Divine Mother. Yes. This is just so important for people to really nurture their inner children. And that's, like I mentioned, that's one of the things that I have been actively seeking to do, is to take that responsibility. I'm not perfect by any means, I have my moments, there are days, there are reactions, there are difficulties, and ultimately I am learning. I'm learning, evolving, and it's not always linear.
And for all of us who've been brought up in the Indian subcontinent, it's wrong to even say that you don't have a good relationship with your parents. In much the same way as parents will never acknowledge publicly that they are having problems with their children. And I see this in my sessions where, to the outside world, this looks like a perfect family scenario. The whole world is looking up at them and saying, oh, what a fabulous put together family. And then inside, it's completely dysfunctional. And it worries me sometimes that we put up with this pretense and we are okay with it. And this is not restricted only to families. This is also about relationships, about a man and a wife not getting on, but putting it up for the sake of society and then pretending like everything is okay. And that again is where all sorts of abuse start.
Wow. And can you expand on the type of abuse, and also follow up to that is, when is it necessary to walk away even from parental relationships, and also marital relationships, or just any for that matter?
At first, it's important to have the agency, to have the autonomy, which is why it is so imperative that every woman makes her own financial path for herself. Because unless you have some kind of backup, it's not possible at all to step away, whether it is from parental control or from marital control. So the moment you feel that you're capable of managing something for yourself, and of course, all of this gets further aggravated when you have a child coming into the picture. So all the more reason for all of us as women to ensure that we have some degree of financial adequacy. Now, if you have a degree of financial adequacy, the moment you need to walk out is that first instance where you feel uncomfortable, where you feel afraid, where you feel fearful. And never think that it's a premature thought, and never think that things will change after that. Because I see this mistake being made by many women. They think this is a one off situation and things will get better tomorrow. In my opinion, in having seen so many people, counseled several women, it never changes. It only gets worse, because now the other party has seen your weakness and they will do anything that it takes to bring you down after this, because they do not want you to reclaim your autonomy. So at the first instance, or perhaps you give them the grace and say, okay, let's see, when this happens again, I'm going to put an end to it. And have the courage to walk away and know that the universe will take care of you. Resilience is everything.
That's so beautiful. And sometimes the circumstances are not such that somebody may have enough financial autonomy and they may be in a difficult situation, but surrendering to the shunyata, to the eternal Shakti mother, and saying, okay, so the price that I'm paying over here is my mental health, my sanity, my dignity. It could be whatever it is. And sure, it might be difficult, and maybe even it seems impossible. But I think that's even more of a powerful declaration of independence than just maybe even staying. And of course, there are circumstances, and everybody's circumstances is different. But I find that the more one stays in an environment that is not beneficial to them, it erodes them. And that you can't compare with money.
It erodes your soul, but one has to be pragmatic, Shama. You're still young. Perhaps what I'm saying comes from having seen life up close and having gone through these situations with very many other women. Unless you're practical, you're just making a bigger mess of life. And then you're opening yourself to further abuse from people who you may not even know. This is the reason why I say be financially independent before you make any decisions, because I've seen this happen as well, where a spur of the moment decision has led a woman to spiral further down into a vortex from which she cannot extricate herself. So this is the reason why we have to be really pragmatic, be practical, make a path for ourselves before we set out. This is not just about reclaiming our independence. There is much more at stake.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It goes beyond just making a statement. It's being pragmatic, practically thinking of all of the, well, what if this happens, and there is that level of practicality there that is also important. Otherwise, like you said, it could end up in even more misery for someone who may not have had to experience that had they maybe planned better.
But life is not all about planning. I am aware of that as well. But I have seen things go down that slippery slope really fast, where a woman makes a decision which perhaps may appear premature, and then she falls in. See, because we as women, we will fall in the same traps again and again and again because it's a cyclical thing. We have set patterns. So you're escaping from one marriage, perhaps because of the abuse, only to then be caged in another marriage, which is probably even more abusive. And then you're carrying along a child. That child then becomes a victim of something which you were party to. And then it goes on that way. So this is why we have to be pragmatic.
That makes sense. It's a ripple effect into the universe at that point. And just because something it might look like a better option or a good option, it really depends on a lot of different factors at that moment. So even for women that are in really unfortunate situations where there's physical violence, that's, I'm sure, the hardest type of situation. And even then, planning is necessary. And of course, speaking to somebody, finding out different ways of, like, basically extricating yourself from that situation. It's not just like an impulsive, I'm out. And maybe it can be depending on their financial power. But in this world, even where Shakti is our mother, we still have to think practically.
And Shama, for women like you and me, we have education, we have the privilege to have these conversations. These are hard conversations, but let us think about 70-80% of the population back home who do not have what you and I have. So everything that we are saying will only make them snigger because they know that they cannot do anything about the situation they're in.
Yes.
And I empathize with them. I understand fully because at times we have also found ourselves in similar situations where we can look at two people who are having a conversation and say, you know what, they're living in their ivory tower and they're telling us all of this. How many times have we not thought that about some people?
Yes, of course. Many times. Yeah, and it's completely understandable, and my heart goes out to men, women in those kind of situations. It's not easy to say reclaim your power, and it's not a 1, 2, 3 thing. It's a process, and I think that by one person starting it, it can inspire others to also similarly light the flame, and hopefully that's the way that it can happen. But
But
of course,
also,
there's
Shama, for the person who inspires this kind of revolution, that person will face a lot of hate. That's also something that one has to take into account. Say you're from a very conservative family and you choose to step out. You're the first of the daughters-in-law in that long lineage to step out and try to make a little world for yourself. You are going to be spat upon.
Yes.
even by the people you call your own, even by your own parents, because everyone wants us to conform.
Yes.
Everyone just wants us to stay in that line. The moment you want to step out is when
All
you
hell
can
breaks loose.
expect a lot of hate.
Yes. And I have faced that kind of hate and I still do. And now I'm welcoming that hate. I'm like, please hate me all you want. It means I'm doing something right. It means I'm actually being authentic to myself and to my values. And that's okay if others cannot see it or respect it. That is completely on them. And that's their problem. But I feel so much more empowered, even with the hate, more than I did before, just masking everything and playing small and maybe being light. But I was not really truly myself.
And I think that's where you and I connect, because we are going through exactly the same things, in the sense that we've had to stop silencing our voices. We are two women who are trying to make ourselves heard. And perhaps it's not all altruistic. Perhaps this is how we are healing. And the hate will come, and we have to learn how to deal with it.
The haters will always be there. It means that we are doing something right, VinitaJi. It means that we're actually not, being pawns in the systemic game of subservience and patriarchy. So I
But it
think it's,
doesn't take the pain away, Shama.
it doesn't, it doesn't. It hurts. It hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. But even with that pain, it feels more empowering than that resentment that builds when we play small.
And for me, the biggest pain point is when I make a post, for example, talking about how we break the patriarchy and we do things on our own without seeking initiation or without seeking some kind of order. And it is women who come at me with the greatest aggression, with the greatest poison in their pens. And this for me is really disheartening, because what we are trying to do here is to empower them. And what they're trying to do is to further perpetuate that same misogyny which they are victims of.
It's fear. It's a lot. It's very fear based because they might be afraid of making whatever change is necessary or going against everything that they believed in, because then they have to question their lives, their whole reality. Okay, if this part is false, what else is false in my life? And that's hard to face.
Turns out everything is false in their lives,
Everything.
which is
Yeah.
what they can't. It's like a mirror.
Yes.
I think sometimes when we step out of our conformity and we become these rebellious figures, it's very hard for other women who are not able to do that for a variety of reasons to deal with people like us. And the
Yes.
easiest way out is to hate us, throw hate at us, throw
Throw
the
hate.
poison
Yes.
at us,
It's
so that
it's
we
the
feel small.
witch wound. It's basically burning us at the stakes, right?
It
How they
is.
do to the
We
witches,
are
and
the
that's
Joan
what.
of Arcs
Yeah.
of modern times.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's the burden we have to bear.
Yes, and that's what we signed up for. And with
But there's no
Shakti's
looking
grace,
back.
there's no looking back. No, I
We've come
can't
this
see
far.
any other.
There's no
Yeah,
looking back.
there's none at all. And I think that hopefully this will, in time, maybe other generations, empower people slowly, slowly. And that's all we can really hope for. And yes, if there is going to be hate, if there's going to be any questioning, all I can say is hopefully you can question yourself one day and all the bullshit belief systems that have been instilled in you, because that's what needs to be questioned and dismantled. Is your narrow-minded thinking, is the damn patriarchy, is all of the bullshit that we've been fed from birth to death. that's what should be questioned. And hopefully people can evolve to do that.
And to think that we come from Sanatana, which allows everyone to stand for their own truth and which asks us to question ourselves, which
Yes.
asks us to say, what truth were you born to bring out? And it is in this kind of civilization that we find we are stuck in this cage of tradition, not allowing people to evolve, not allowing people to be what they want to be, who they want to be, whatever their choices are. Why can't we accept that?
Yep, exactly. It's just preaching flowery language of whether it's love thy neighbor or whatever other texts may say that people may quote, but there's no practice in it because it's that spiritual bypassing that doesn't allow them to get to that point, and when you don't know yourself, you really can't know another.
And then what is the point? What is the overarching point of spirituality in that case? How does it even serve us if we are still being called upon to hide our own truths? Then where is the spirituality?
There's none. It's just a facade. It's
a pretense then in that case.
It just looks nice and it's like a costume. It's like playing
Oh, yes.
make-believe, like, oh, we're all just princesses and
Yeah.
we are all healing, and it's just that generic live, laugh, love type of poster. And it's like, what the hell does that even mean if you don't even know what it means to live? If you're living half a life.
I wouldn't even say it's half a life. It's a quarter of a life.
That's true. Even that might be too generous too, right? Yeah.
But these are questions which need to be asked. There are no easy answers. The answers will tear us to shreds.
Yes.
But unless we do this work, this is the shadow work for us.
Yes.
And unless we get rid of the shadows, the light, the enlightenment is well nigh impossible.
Yes. And it's not just a one-time fix. We go on a retreat, we go on a purge or whatever it is, and we come back all healed. No, it's a lifelong thing. And there are going to be times when we may backtrack and we question ourselves. We may even shame ourselves. But that's part of the process, and it's the learning, it's the honoring, and it's the allowing.
It's like with confidence. Sometimes you become this confident being because of all your achievements, and then all it takes is for one failure, for you to fall, and then you have to rise all over again. So if you think that you become confident once and then you will stay confident all your life, that's never going to happen, especially for women. Men can still somehow manage. But for us, when we are raised to the ground, it's very difficult for us to get back on our feet. So life is like that. Whatever it is, whether it's confidence, whether it's our connection with Shakti, whether it's the sense of womanhood, all of it, we will go through the crests and troughs.
Yes, exactly.
It's never going to be a linear journey towards whatever we think is waiting for us at the end of the road.
No, it's not straightforward. And the women, I think, that do tear down others and that pray to Shakti or that have whatever spiritual belief they do, I'm hoping that they question their really limited worldview. Because if they cannot worship the Shakti within another woman and they need to tear her down to validate their own false, stupid beliefs, then I don't know who the hell they are worshiping, but it definitely is not Shakti.
They are only worshipping that deity that they have put on a pedestal. And they believe that in worshipping only the deity, they will forge a connection with Shakti, which unfortunately, is not how it works. Unless you identify the Shakti in every being, in every worm, in every fly, in every individual, you will never be able to forge a connection with the universal consciousness.
Yes. This is such a profound conversation, VinitaJi. I'm so happy we went here. I think it was so necessary. It's the right time. And there are so many more topics that I'm looking forward to discussing with you too. That
Likewise, Shama, it's always so easy to speak with you about profound subjects because somewhere our souls match. And I know this is difficult. This is going to be very difficult for many, many people to hear and digest what we've been saying. But it's important. It's necessary that parents come out and say, it's all right, my child is giving me grief. It is okay for a child to say, look, I'm having difficulties. I'm dealing with parental trauma. I'm trying to do the best that I can. So I think my appeal to everyone will be just be a little more realistic in what you put out to the world. And if you need help, seek it. There is nothing wrong with it. None of us can get away in this life without trauma.
Yes.
Some of us are lucky enough to heal our wounds. Most of us go to our grave with our wounds more intact than anything else. And that for me is a very sad life.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad. And thank you for reminding everyone that please seek help, whether that be in the form of therapy, psychiatry, coaching, spirituality. Just please make sure it's not some kind of bullshit spirituality that's leading you to only perpetuate your false beliefs, but just seeking that help. It's so needed, especially men too, because like you said before earlier, women, we do have more of a community. We can speak with each other. And for men, I think it's so important to seek that out, that conscious community, and to further heal yourself and one's lineage and just all of mankind.
Shama, the bottom line is if you feel that you need some help with your mental health, just go seek it. You
Yes.
don't need a second opinion. You know best. If you feel there is something that bothers you day in and day out, which is not letting you be a complete human being, seek help. And how you know that you need help is a simple rule of the thumb, that you don't wake up feeling the joy of living. If you're not feeling that, if you don't wake up every morning thinking, what a miracle that I'm alive, what a magical life I'm leading, then please stop right there and ask, what's stopping you from leading a life which is magical? Because this life is precious. Our time is limited. Let's make the best of it.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. VinitaJi. And I'm so grateful for your wisdom, for your time, for sharing so vulnerably and allowing me to also vulnerably share. And this life is not going to be linear. We are going to attract hate. We're going to lose friends. I already am, I already have. And that's okay. And I am inviting all of that in because I would rather be in the presence of Shakti than in the presence of whatever false spirituality was before. So may
Thank
Shakti
you,
rule
Tama,
through us.
for laying bare your own vulnerabilities, for laying bare things which would have been so easy to push under the carpet and to not share publicly. I owe you thanks for coming out with all of this, because your coming out, your talking about your own situation will help other women understand that they also can find recourse, they can find some balm to soothe their wounds. Thank you so much, Shama, for this. It
Thank you
really
so
means a
much.
lot. You are actually doing a huge service to all of womankind and also some men, perhaps.
It means so much to hear coming from you. I really appreciate that. And yes, we will make whatever difference we can. Thank you so much, VinitaJi.
Thank you, Shama. It's been a pleasure. Sri Matre Namaha.